Hi everyone, and welcome to Disaster Scope, your channel for deep dives into the world's most devastating events. Today, we're taking a closer look at one of the most powerful, heartbreaking, and globally significant natural disasters in modern history, the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. You may have seen headlines or brief documentaries, but today, we're going further. This isn't just a story about destruction, it's about humanity, the lives lost, the survivors, and how this event reshaped the world forever. This tsunami didn't just claim lives. It exposed how dangerously unprepared we were for natural disasters. At the same time, it showed the strength of global solidarity as governments, strangers, and communities came together like never before, across borders, across languages. We'll start with the science. What caused this catastrophe? Then, we'll head into the heart of the impact zone, the people, the mistakes, the tragedies, and the lessons we've learned. Finally, we'll fast forward to 2025, when another tsunami struck following an offshore earthquake near Russia. We'll compare what has changed in 21 years and what still hasn't. Whether you lived through the 2004 tsunami or are just learning about it now, this is a story everyone should remember. It's not just history, it's a warning for the future. In the face of disasters like this, we have to learn how to protect ourselves and our loved ones. If you believe this kind of content deserves more attention, backhand index pointing right, hit that subscribe button and support our ongoing mission to document and report the truth. Speech balloon and drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. It was the morning after Christmas, December 26, 2004. Families in Indonesia and across the Indian Ocean region were waking up, going to the market, preparing for morning prayers. Children were still enjoying their holiday break. Then, at 7:58 a.m. local time, the earth shifted. A massive 9.1 to 9.3 magnitude undersea earthquake struck just off the western coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. It was caused by the subduction of the Indian plate beneath the Burma plate, a geological collision that built pressure for hundreds of years. When it finally gave way, it unleashed one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded by instruments. The rupture was enormous, stretching over 1,300 kilometers. That's roughly the distance from New York City to Miami. The seafloor lifted by several meters, displacing an unimaginable volume of water. That shift triggered a series of tsunami waves that raced outward across the Indian Ocean. Some waves traveled at speeds over 800 kilometers per hour, faster than a jetliner. In deep ocean, these waves weren't even visible, but as they approached land, the energy rose to the surface, and the water surged, devastatingly and without warning. In the moments after the earthquake, the ocean itself became the threat. Tsunami waves generated by the seafloor uplift began moving across the Indian Ocean basin at jetliner speeds, over 500 miles per hour. In Thailand, tourists on the beaches noticed the water pulling back dramatically, exposing coral reefs and fish flopping on the sand. For some, it was fascinating. For others, terrifying. But few understood the danger. Then came the wall of water. In places like Phuket and Khao Lak, waves as high as 10 meters crashed inland, sweeping away everything in their path: resorts, cars, and people. Sri Lanka saw entire trains swept off tracks. In India, villages disappeared beneath the surge. Worst of all was the complete lack of a warning system. No text messages, no sirens, no alerts, just confusion and then devastation. Within 3 to 7 hours of the quake, 14 countries were hit, many with no time to react. Across the region, people didn't even know the term tsunami. In Aceh, Indonesia, some believed it was a flood or a punishment from the gods. The scale of what was happening was simply beyond imagination. Indonesia bore the brunt of the tsunami's force. The province of Aceh, at the northern tip of Sumatra, was closest to the quake's epicenter. The first wave struck just 15 to 20 minutes after the earthquake. In Banda Aceh, the capital city, walls of water tore through the streets. Entire blocks were flattened. Houses were shattered. Parents were separated from children. Thousands were pulled into the sea. The death toll in Indonesia alone exceeded 167,000, the highest among all affected countries. But numbers don't capture the full horror. Bodies lay unburied for days. Hospitals overflowed. Roads became unrecognizable. The tsunami destroyed 800 kilometers of coastline in Indonesia. Villages that had existed for generations vanished. Fishing boats, the lifeblood of coastal economies, were smashed like toys. Mosques, schools, government offices, all gone. And the survivors? Many were left with nothing. No homes, no loved ones, no identity papers. Some wandered for days looking for missing family. Others waited beside mass graves. For them, December 26th didn't just mark a natural disaster. It marked the day their world ended. Amid the devastation, stories of survival gave the world glimmers of hope. One of the most remarkable stories came from a 10-year-old British girl named Tilly Smith, who was vacationing with her family in Thailand. She had learned about tsunamis in school just weeks earlier and recognized the signs when the sea pulled back. She warned her parents, who alerted others. Dozens of people on that beach were saved because of her quick thinking. In Indonesia, a woman named Amina clung to the top of a palm tree for 6 hours, watching the ocean swallow her village. In Sri Lanka, a dog saved its family by barking frantically and dragging a child uphill just before the wave struck. There were also stories of heartbreak. A man in Mulabo, Indonesia, found his wife's body days later, still holding their baby. He survived by clinging to debris for hours. These personal accounts humanized a tragedy that otherwise seemed too large to grasp. Survivor stories reminded us that disaster is deeply personal and that sometimes bravery means simply holding on until help arrives. As news of the tsunami spread, shock turned into action. The world came together in a wave of empathy rarely seen before. More than 14 billion US dollars were pledged in aid. The United Nations, Red Cross, and hundreds of other organizations launched one of the largest humanitarian responses in history. Military aircraft were repurposed for food drops. Medical teams flew in from every continent. Volunteers flooded the region. Donations poured in from children breaking open piggy banks to celebrities hosting global telethons. Aid convoys rolled through devastated cities. Temporary shelters were set up, and food kitchens operated around the clock. In some places, however, logistics and corruption slowed progress. Coordination between governments and NGOs was sometimes chaotic. Despite best intentions, aid didn't always reach the people who needed it most. Still, the sheer scale of compassion was unprecedented. The 2004 tsunami became a defining moment in global disaster readiness. In the years that followed, major advances were made in tsunami detection. Deep ocean sensors, seismic buoys, and satellite systems were deployed across the Indian Ocean. Today, warning centers in Indonesia, India, and Australia are capable of issuing alerts within minutes. Education also changed. In countries like Thailand and Indonesia, children now learn how to respond to earthquakes and tsunamis from a young age. Communities conduct drills. Coastlines have sirens and clearly marked evacuation routes. International coordination has also improved. The UN developed clearer frameworks for disaster relief, and countries invested in rapid response teams. What was once unthinkable, real-time alerts across borders, is now a reality. Fast forward to the year 2025. A powerful 8.7 magnitude earthquake hit beneath the Pacific Ocean, off Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. The region is geologically active, but the strength of the quake took scientists by surprise. Unlike in 2004, tsunami sensors immediately detected the wave activity. Within 5 minutes, automated alerts were pushed to phones in Japan, Alaska, and parts of the Russian Far East. The tsunami reached Japan's eastern coast 2 hours later, flooding some harbors and damaging several fishing towns. But evacuation orders had cleared most vulnerable areas. Only about 1,200 casualties were reported, tragic, but far fewer than feared. Russia, learning from past disasters, had built elevated shelters near coastal towns. Emergency teams deployed helicopters and boats to reach affected areas quickly. Even social media was used to account for missing persons. It wasn't perfect, but it was vastly more coordinated than the world's response 2 decades earlier. So what changed between 2004 and 2025? First, technology. We now have real-time warning systems, apps, automated alerts, and satellites monitoring tectonic activity around the globe. Second, education. People now know the signs of a tsunami. Schools conduct evacuation drills. Sirens are tested monthly. Preparedness became part of culture. Third, communication. Governments, NGOs, and citizens can now share data instantly. A disaster in one country triggers alerts in others. This speed saves lives. But challenges remain. Not every coastline is protected. Not every country has funding. And climate change introduces new variables. Rising sea levels and more frequent storms make coastal resilience even more urgent. In the end, the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was a tragedy that changed the world. It revealed our vulnerabilities, but also our compassion, strength, and willingness to adapt. Every tsunami drill in a classroom, every test of a coastal siren, every parent who teaches their child to head for high ground. These are the legacies of 2004. We can't stop nature, but we can choose how we respond. And if we've learned anything, it's that preparedness isn't optional, it's essential. Thank you for remembering, for reflecting, and for preparing for what might come next. We hope this event becomes a new starting point, one that inspires learning, adaptation, and heightened global awareness. This channel is committed to documenting major global disasters with facts, real footage, and grounded analysis. This event compels us to reflect on past tragedies, like Japan's 2011 tsunami, and how we can better prepare for future threats. If you find this information important, please subscribe and share. If this report moved you, we welcome you to join the conversation, like, comment, and spread awareness. Together, let's work toward building a safer, better informed world. Thank you for watching Disaster Scope.